Dear students, welcome to another session of Environment, Ecosystem and Biodiversity. So here we are going to see about concept of ecology and ecosystem. So what do you know about ecology? Ecology is defined as the study of the ecosystem. That is, it's the study of interaction among the organisms that is present in the environment. Okay, they may be of biotic or abiotic. So biotic, it is the living organisms like plants, animals, etc. And abiotic is the surroundings, that is, it composes of water, river, temperature, whatever it is. So what is ecosystem? Ecosystem is actually a Greek word. It is meaning the study of home. So how it is defined? The definition is a group of organisms interacting among themselves and with the environment is known as the ecosystem. Hence, you can define that ecosystem as a community of different species interacting with one another and with their non-living environment. That is, actually they'll be exchanging the energy and the matter according to the needs. Example, if you take the animals, see, animals, they cannot prepare their own food. They are dependent on the plants or other animals. So animals cannot synthesize food directly, so they are dependent on plants. Now the structure or the components of ecosystem. So there are various components of ecosystem. Structure of the ecosystem is abiotic or biotic, and there is a term called holocyanosis. That is, it's actually the interaction between the various components that is present in the biotic and abiotic in the environment, and it is composed of an integrated system. So ecosystem, it's broadly classified into abiotic, that is non-living, biotic, living components. Okay, see, you can see in the diagram that is there is a integration between the abiotic and biotic that constitute the ecosystem. So abiotic component, there are different abiotic component, that is physical and chemical. So abiotic is nothing but the non-living component of the ecosystem. So these physical systems, abiotic systems, are energy, climate, raw materials and living space for needs of the biological community, useful for the growth and the maintenance of the members. That is, example, you can take air, water, soil, sunlight, etc. And in the abiotic, the next classification is chemical. The chemical, it constitutes of organic and inorganic. So organic example, we can consider the proteins, lipids, carbohydrates, etc. And inorganic, all micro, that is nutrients like aluminum, cobalt, zinc, copper, and macro like carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, nitrogen, potassium elements, etc. So biotic components, as I already said, it is the living component. So living organisms of an ecosystem collectively forming a community called the biotic community. So these are made up of different species and are distinguished by the nutritional relationship. So biotic components can be broadly classified into three groups. They are the producer, consumers and decomposer. As we all know, producer are nothing but the green plants. Okay, they produce their own food by taking the energy from the sunlight, carbon dioxide and other nutrients. And they are self-nourishing. Consumers are nothing but, we are also consumers, the animals are consumers. Decomposers, the microorganisms, they are the decomposed. That is, dead matter are decomposed by the microorganism that is present. Okay, if there is no decomposer, what will happen to the earth? You will have all the dead matter that is lying just like that, right? So that is very important. So producers, it has another name. It's called the autotrophs. Why they are called the autotrophs? Because they are self-dependent, okay? They produce their own food. So organisms that synthesize their food themselves through the photosynthesis are called the producers. Example, green plants, algae and many bacteria. And they are also called the converters or transducers. So photosynthesis, what is the photosynthesis process? It's the green plants has a green pigment called the chlorophyll in leaves. This pigment convert the carbon dioxide and water in presence of sunlight into carbohydrates. and this process is called the photosynthesis. And you can see in the equation that the carbon dioxide and the water, in the presence of the photon of light energy Hnu and the chlorophyll, gives the starch, oxygen and water. So this is a picture that is depicting the photosynthesis process. The light energy, the carbon dioxide, the water, they produce the, with the help of the chlorophyll, the synthesis food, and the oxygen is released over there, right? And next is the consumer. Consumers are also called heterotrophs. Okay, so heterotrophs, that is, they cannot produce their own food, and they dependent on the autotrophs for the food, directly or indirectly. So organisms which cannot prepare their own food and depend directly or indirectly on the producers are called the heterotrophs. These are also called as macro consumers or phagotrophs. Phago means, it means to swallow, right? So plant-eating species, herbivores, example insects, rabbits, goat, cow, etc. Animal-eating species, carnivores, fish, lion, tiger, etc. So there is one more type called the omnivores. Okay, these are dependent both on the plants and the animals for the food. So there are different types of consumers, and they are primary, secondary and tertiary. So primary, already we've seen that is herbivores, the plant eaters, okay. So they directly depend on the plants for the food, and so they are called the primary consumers. Example, insects, rat, goat, deer, cow, etc. Secondary consumer, they actually does not depend directly on the primary, but they are directly dependent on the primary consumers. So they are also called the meat eaters. The feed on the primary consumers, they directly depend on herbivores. Example, frog, cats, snakes, foxes, etc. Tertiary consumers, they are called secondary carnivores. The feed on the secondary consumer, they directly depend on the primary carnivores for the food. Example, tiger, eagle, etc. So this is a pyramid, okay, it starts from the producers, the autotrophs, at the bottom of the pyramid, then goes the primary consumers of the herbivores, then secondary consumers of primary carnivores, tertiary consumers of secondary carnivores. The next comes the decomposers. So organisms that feed on the dead plants, animals and decompose them into simpler compound. Inorganic nutrients were released during decomposition. So example, bacteria and fungi, they are the microorganisms which is responsible for the decomposition. So these decomposed matter, it is converted into nutrients for the plants after certain period of time. So inorganic compounds plus organic compounds that is present in the soil, they are consumed again by the producer and for the synthesis of food. So you have the producer, then the consumer, decomposer. This is a trophic cycle. They are dependent on each other.